Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about last week, what happened with the lecture, what we said. But before I do that, I just want to give you a little testimony for this week, and perhaps a little request as well. And the request is for that one family that we support. So looking for about $100 worth of help for that family, maybe $150, somewhere there. That'd be kind of good to assist them. Secondly, I was called by a person in the north, and they have a little girl. Little girl is, she's pretty young. She's about maybe, let's just say, 4 or 5 years of age, no more than that. And she had ongoing fever. Now, I guess they took her to the doctors, and the doctors, they do their little thing. They give the injections, they charge the money, and then they put the saline drip. The fever comes and goes. The fever comes and goes continuously for perhaps a week, maybe longer. And then they take the girl back to the doctor, and then the doctor says, oh, but you have to, pay more money and get more drips, the saline drips. And then, we have to give her some harder medicine to kill the bacteria, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, they turn around and say, if the fever's not going down, first they can't identify it. Then they say it's typhoid. So when they, ring me, so I say, well, first of all, I said, the girl has typhoid. Simple. If the fever is going away and coming back in the evening, it's typhoid. It's very simple. You don't need examinations for that. That's just, it is what it is. So I said to them, what medicines have you been giving her? And so they told me, we've been giving this XYZ. The doctor's asking for more money, and we spent all our money, and we still got nowhere with the doctor. And now they're asking us to pay more money and, spend more money. And then we're not getting anywhere. So what do we do? So I said, okay. I said, since you come to the best doctor in the world, you don't need to do nothing. I said, how much is the doctor telling you to purchase the medicine? And the doctor is telling them to purchase medicine which potentially could cost them anywhere from $50 to $100, for her treatment for the week. And I said, so I said to the girl, I said, okay, to the mother, of the girl, I said, listen, I gave her, I said, I want you to go buy 2 medicines. I gave her the name of the medicines. So go to the pharmacy, ask them, then tell me, do they have this in a liquid form, oral suspension? And if they don't have it, then tell me how do they have it in a capsule form. So she goes and she finds out, and it turns out they don't have the liquid form, the oral suspension. They have it in a capsule form. And I told her to buy 2 capsules, of the 2 different medicines, buy 4, 2 of each. So I said, this is what you do, and we're going to split it up, since I'm a physician, I know how to deal with these little children as well. So I asked them to split up the medicine. So we have 4 days medicine now in powder form. And then all we do is we take about 125 mg at one session, and we give it to the little girl. And then I prescribe, these salts, right? This is like, this little packet that you mix into the water, and it replenishes your body salts. If your body is lost because of fever, you got dehydrated or something else, then these packets are called ORS over here, and probably same in India. And so what happens is that they just have a mixture of salt, and you put them into water, you mix them up, and you feed it to the person. So I said, you just give her the spoons, give her with spoons. She can be spoon fed. the little girl was getting really irritated by the cannula, in her arm, in her fingers rather, on the top of her hand, where they inject the saline drips and other medicines. So I said, no need to do any of that baloney. I said, you just give the girl with the mouth, and you give her this. And I told them how to manage the fever. She's got 104 fever. I told them how to manage it, and I said, I will have this girl well in 3 days. This girl will be up and running. I said, I guarantee it. So anyway, so they go away, they do the things, they do the management of the fever, as I tell them, and then 2 days later, they contact me and tell me the girl is now out of fever. She was like, when I saw the girl and they showed me the girl in like a little video, live video, and the girl was like, almost she's in sleeping state, but she was kind of unconscious, like dreamy state, unconscious, like she's fever, lethargic, unconscious, in the sense of she's not really, so much awake. Anyway, 2 days later, through my management, 2 days later, the girl fever is gone, the girl is up, she's now able to, eat little bits of food, and is on the road to recovery. So I told them to continue the medicine for another 3 days, and guess how much the medicine is? Just listen to this. You're gonna say, what the heck? The medicine that I ordered for that girl, right? And versus what the doctor was asking, doctor might have ended up getting her hospitalized, and I don't know how much they would have paid. They probably end up paying a lot more than $100. But I bought the medicine on the counter for what? For, my goodness, you're not going to believe this, for $2. Yeah, $2. And her medicine is going to cost maximum for the 5 days $3 total. $3 of medicine to cure typhoid that the doctors are doing the rounds with you, and you can't be healed, and you have to go back and you have to do this injection and that injection. I said, you crazy? I said, she's a little girl, she's a baby. I said, you want your girl to suffer through injections, through in the doctor's surgery and clinic, and who knows, hospital afterwards? It's crazy. He says, no. I told them it's very common for children to have typhoid. I mean, I had typhoid when I was, 2 years old. Many children have typhoid when they're 2 years old. It's not like it's the end of the world. I remember my auntie telling me that I was very young, and maybe I was around 2 years of age, and I had typhoid, and my mother was having difficulty because she had other children. She had 3-4 other children at the time, and so she gave me to my auntie. So my auntie took care of me and taking me to the doctor and getting the medicine done and taking care of me during that time. So it's very common for children to get typhoid in the East. So anyhow, so good, there's a happy ending to that the girl is now well. Baruch Hashem. So again, unfortunately, doctors world over, they're stuck in their books, they're stuck with their methods. And unfortunately, their methods can only go so far, where they can either help you or not help you. And then you end up, sometimes spending a lot of money and end up in all sorts of problems otherwise. So, but there is ways and means to manage patients in many different ways. But anyhow, it's just an example. So coming back to the Yeshua, Jesus, remember last week we spoke about Jesus having a conversation with Nicodemus. And the conversation went in book of John, chapter 3. The conversation went where Jesus said that except a man be born of Ma'im, born of water, and of the Ruach, the set-apart spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of Elohim. Now, remember, as I told you, that the word there for spirit, Ruach, Ruach Elohim, also can mean wind. So really what Jesus was saying was that unless you are born of water and wind, or water and air in our sense of the word, he was saying that he was almost saying, unless you use water and air, you cannot see the kingdom of God. And I'm reading from the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls 7th edition, and it's interesting that it says that. And so I spoke to you last week, and I spoke to you about the value of water, and I also spoke to you about Dr. Emoto's experiments, and probably there are other doctors who did experiments as well, not just Dr. Emoto. There are other doctors, other professors who have done experiments with water, and they also came to the same conclusion that water has memory and it can store memory. But here's the kicker. Here is the kicker. Did you know that the Bible mentions salt everywhere, and it tells us that we should all the ancient sacrifices that we did in the temple, otherwise we were told that we need to salt them. And then Jesus also spoke to the disciples, telling them, you are the salt of the earth. Now, Jesus wasn't just making by the by, lads, you are the salt of the earth. He wasn't just making a by the by statement. He was actually making a very profound statement about salt. Salt is a connection in your body, is between you and your soul, your body and soul. That is the connection of salt. And salt, by the way, has even more powerful memory than water. So, how do we use the salt? Well, that's the more important question. I can tell you 100 things about salt, what salt does, but I think I need to tell you how to use it, because one of the frustrating things about information on the internet is they tell you, you can do this, you can do that, but they never tell you how to use it. So then it's really of no use. So, salt, like I told you, is the connection between your soul and between your body. And the salt can raise your vibrations higher. So how do you use the salt? You put you take the salt, you put it in your palm, whichever hand you are, right hand, left hand, you put it in your palm and you speak to it. You speak your prayers over the salt. Maybe for some people it might be affirmations. For other people it's a prayer. Whatever prayer that you are saying to God, you speak to the salt. That way you charge the particles of salt. Once you charge the particles of salt, then you just eat them. You put it in your mouth and you swallow it. You take a little bit salt every day. Could be done every day. Every day you do a little bit salt in your left palm or your right palm, whichever is your hand that you work with, and then you ingest that salt, and you can have a little sip of water with it. Or some people put it into the water, let it mix, and then they drink the water. Whichever you prefer, but that salt gets charged. That charge of the salt is same as your computer chips. Just as your computer chips, the SIMs on a telephone, or the computer chips in which there is information in those chips, like the memories that we have in our laptops, they can store information. And then when new information comes, it can store it until it's full. And then when you delete it, it clears a part of that, and then it just overwrites it, etc. That kind of cycle continues. So salt is very powerful you are writing that information into salt. When you speak to the salt, you're writing that information to the salt. And in Roman times, salt was given as a payment to the Romans. You may find that interesting, that salt was very powerful in the ancient times, that it was used as a method of payment, as currency. But now, of course, those times have changed. So, one thing I would advise you all to do every day is when you sit down to eat your meal, is what you must do. And if you like me, if you put some salt on your meal and you have your glass of water, you must bless those things before you eat them. Bless your meal before you eat it. Do a little prayer over it. Sure, remember in the African-Israel Siddur, we said that you can do the Hamatzi prayer. And many people, find it difficult to do the Hebrew because for some people it's hard to learn. But you can do a simple prayer. And your simple prayer can be, I bless this food in the name of God, or I bless this food in the name of Jesus, that as I eat it, it blesses me with abundance, with health, with longevity, with great life ahead. You need to do a small prayer like that to your food or to your water that you drink. If you drink water 3 times a day or 4 times a day or however many times, bless your water. However many times you eat, bless your food. Because the value of that is tremendous. And you will start to see the value of that once you start to do it. So when Jesus comes around and says to Nicodemus that you cannot be born unless you have the air and you have the water, well, water, when you speak into it, remember water has memory, remember salt has even more powerful memory, that the salt can even reach the parts of your soul that, water can't, but salt can. So, having said that, there are ways and means of doing that. Again, it depends whether some people need to do that or not. But one of the things I recommend is that when you have your shower every day, you don't need to do this every day, but maybe once a week, pick a day, 1 day a week, you take some salt into your shower cubicle and you make sure you rub it on your body. Pray over it again, pray over that salt. If you don't do that technique every day, you could do it once a week, pray over it, rub it on all your body, and then you have your shower. And then you'll have a lasting effect. Also, when you have a shower, if you are repeating your affirmations, simple affirmations, doesn't have to be, out of this world affirmations. You could simply be saying that I'm healthy, I'm whole, I am blessed. Simple things like that. And when you are having a shower, say those affirmations because they will help you. And any other affirmations you feel like, say it, because when you are having the shower, that 4 or 5 minutes of your shower time, it's very important because that water gets into your body. Don't think that the water is just going to flush off you. Some of that water is going to be ingested by your skin. It's going to go inside your body. So whatever you're speaking at that point, it goes inside you. This is why I discourage listening to music when you're having a shower. Because if you're listening to the wrong kind of music, when you're having a shower, you're actually ingesting that music in your body. It is better that you speak to the water and ingest what you're speaking. I am blessed, I am healthy, I am whole. And then whatever other affirmations you desire for your life, whatever it is that you desire. If you desire to be wealthy, you can say those affirmations. If you're desiring health, you can say the health ones. If you're desiring love, you can say the love ones. I am loved. It's a great affirmation. And there is others. So again, they are specific to you. Everybody has different requirements. So we can't say all 5 fingers are the same. 5 different people have 5 different requirements. So whatever your requirement, you say the affirmations when you're having a shower every day. If you're having a shower in the morning first thing, say those affirmations while you're having the shower. And once a week, try to get some salt, rub it on you, and then have your shower. You'll do real well. Because salt is also very powerful to get rid of negativities. and it can remove negative energies. And what salt does, let me tell you the secret of what salt does. It clears the ether, the atmosphere, because if you can't, we can't see unless we can perceive, the spiritual world. If you can't perceive the spiritual world, you don't see it, you don't know it. So what happens when you have the salt around you and you speak to the salt, what the salt does, it clears the ether, it clears the air, it raises the vibration. Now you can get through. Now when you're speaking your affirmations or your desires, the salt allows you to make that connection to what is called the universe. And by the way, you are the universe. It's within you. It's not just the ether. You are the connection to God. So what salt does, it clears all of that. So Jesus wasn't wrong when he said that it's through the air and through the water. Now, he mentioned salt in certain portions of the New Testament, but again, people just overlook those. Remember, when a baby is born, the baby must be washed in salt, and the salt has to be charged with a prayer, and then you wash the baby. So, as Jesus said, marvel not that I said to you, ye must be born from above. The wind blows where it desires, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes. See, next he talks about the wind. That's why I'm saying to you that the word for spirit is also the word for wind. So the reference in verse 6 is exactly linked to the reference in verse 8 of John chapter 3. Both are wind. The wind blows where it desires, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes. So is everyone that is born of the Ruach born of the wind? And Nicodemus answered and said to him, how can these things be? Yeshua answered and said to him, are you a rabbi of Israel, and you do not know these things? Verily, verily, I say to you, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall you believe if I tell you of the things of Shamaim, of heaven? And no man has ascended up to the Shamaim, to the heaven, but he that came down from the Shamaim, the Son of Man. And as Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. And by the way, these serpents that Moses saw, and these serpents that were flying and biting the Israelites, remember, we had the incident in which the Israelites sinned, and God sent these snakes that were flying and biting people. Biting in the sense they were stinging people. They would jump up and then strike you. By the way, those serpents exist in the East today. Yeah, in Pakistan they have those serpents. There's an area in Pakistan where some people claim to have seen those serpents flying from the ground. So then Jesus concludes that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. And it talks about the Son of Man be lifted up, just as the serpent was lifted up. And because God told the Israelites to look at the brass copper serpent and be healed through him. Because again, the brass has healing properties. And I guess it was a representation of Jesus. So, for Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only unique Son, that whoever believes in him should not be destroyed, but have everlasting life. For Elohim did not send his Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world through him might be rescued. Now there is two ways to be rescued. Number one, the salvation, remember, salvation is part of a covenant. And when you enter that covenant, you're automatically saved forever. Not just for one time, 2 times, forever you're saved. So what is this rescue that the Son does? is this, that in the world you have problems, you have challenges, you have desires that you want, but you don't know how to get those. And what the Son does, it is the Son that gives you those desires. So this rescue here is the rescue that you get through the Son, your desires, meaning Jesus is within you as well. He is within you, and so this kingdom of heaven is inside you, is really a prefigurement of the Master Jesus. It says, he that believes on him is not judged. If you believe in Jesus, Yeshua, you are not judged. But he that believes not is judged. Doesn't mean that he is condemned. If a person says, I don't believe in Jesus, doesn't mean he's condemned. It means that he that believes not is judged. Judge here means simply that you're going to be facing challenges in your life, and you're not going to know how to solve those challenges because you don't believe that Jesus is living within you. Because since you don't believe in him, period, what you're going to be looking for? You're going to be out there looking for the tarot reader. Oh, let me ask a tarot reader, what's my future? Or let me ask some other person. Or let me ask the psychic. Then you're going to be running to psychics, tarot card readers, astrologers, who knows what else, right? I see people doing that all the time. Why? Because you do not believe in Jesus. Well, he that believes on him, he that believes in Jesus, he's not going to the tarot card readers, because he's not judged, meaning he knows how to get rid of his challenge. He knows how to get his challenges addressed through Jesus, through inside you. You speak about your problems inside you, and there's various ways to do that. And we've spoken about this in the past. But if you don't, then of course you're going to have problems. You're going to be going to the tarot card reader. Oh, what's going to happen to me next month? Am I going to get this? This is what people do out there. How do you think these tarot cards make money? And all these tarot cards is baloney. It's a lot of baloney. Psychics and tarot cards all put together. And then in verse 19, and this is the judgment, that light has come into the world. Light meaning through Jesus. And men love darkness. What is darkness? Darkness is not some evil hell place. Darkness simply means that you're going to these other people asking for help. Oh, well, the tarot card lady will tell me, the palm reader will tell me, maybe I need to go and check on my astrology and where I am. Different things like that. Because it says, because their deeds were evil, meaning that your evil inclination is more than the good inclination. For whosoever that does evil hates the light, neither comes to the light, and lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that practices truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in Elohim. In other words, if you come to Jesus and you ask Jesus, you can sit in a room, you can close the door, and you can pray to Jesus, and Jesus will hear your prayer. And it is through God that prayer is answered, meaning you're practicing truth. That is truth that you're practicing. And if you're practicing truth through Jesus, not through tarot card reader or palm reader or, what my psychologist said or what the psychic is saying, no. I am practicing truth through Jesus, my master. Then I am living in the light, and my deeds are manifest, and everything I want, God will do for me. That's what it says, okay? Now, coming back to something that I think you might find interesting. That, we're speaking about this light. This is very interesting. Now I come to an interesting part of the topic of the false gods that we worship. We worship 5 false gods. Who are these false gods? Well, do you remember the Samaritan lady that came to Jesus? And she said she had 5 husbands. And Jesus said the woman's telling the truth. And a lot of people thought that she's relating the 5 husbands to maybe a physical body, physically marrying 5, and that's not the answer. Basically, she was speaking of the 5 kingdoms or the 5 leaders, let's call it kings of different kingdoms that occurred in Israel that they all believed in and put their faith into. Those were the 5 false gods of husbands that Israel have. So, which are the 5 false gods that you and I were taught to worship from a young age until, of course, it is time for truth now. Those 5 false gods are your 5 senses. Your eyes, you say, oh, I'll see it and I'll then believe it. Your ears, you say, I hear it and then I'll believe it. And your smell, you say, I'll smell it and then I'll believe it. And your touch, and so on. So these 5 senses are the false gods that we all been taught to believe. Yet, the truth is that we should not put our faith into these 5 false gods. If I want to have something, let's say, let me put a hypothesis today. I want to have a car. I want to get a new car. My desire is to get a new car, right? And if I look around myself and I look with my sight, I don't see a new car. I look with my touch, I don't touch a new car. I don't hear somebody saying to me that you have a new car. I don't smell the leather. My 5 senses are all telling me that you don't have a new car. And guess what? I believe these 5 false gods. But no, I want to have a new car. And I don't care about my sight, not seeing a new vehicle. I don't care about my ears not hearing about it. I don't care about my tongue. I don't care about my smell. And I don't care about my touch. I want to have a new car. I've decided it. And I'm going to have it. How do I manufacture a new car? Now that my 5 false gods that I've been taught to worship, that I've been taught to believe in, put my faith in everything in this. Oh, son, if you don't see it, don't believe it. Son, if you don't touch it, don't believe it. No, I am rejecting all of that today. I am rejecting these 5 false gods. I am going to believe that I have the car. I'm going to believe it. Because what did Jesus say? Jesus said that when you pray, believing that you have that which you desire, you will receive it. He said, believe it and you have it. So, Jesus totally taught us against believing these 5 false gods. Just as he was speaking to the Samaritan, he taught us also, but we were so blind we couldn't see it. Right? Nobody was really explaining to us that what those 5 false gods are. But I'm telling you today that those 5 false gods are within you. And you have been taught by your parents, uncles, aunties, your teachers, whoever, that you got to believe these 5 false gods. And that what you see is true. And I say no. When you desire something, you have to deny these 5 false gods. When you deny these 5 false gods, and it might be a vehicle for some people, it might be a sum of money for others, it might be solid health for somebody who's ill, they want complete health. For somebody who's searching for love, they want love but they don't see it, they don't touch it, they don't feel it. So you have to, number 1, in order to get your desire, reject the false gods. Now start believe that you have that car, that you have that money that you desire. $10 million, $50 million, whatever it is. You have it. Now, when you say that, people will laugh. People will make jokes. People will say you're mad, you're deluded. When you talk about these things in the home, maybe one day I'll tell you some funny stories, but I won't tell you in this one. I won't tell you here that funny story. But I will tell you that story another day. But when you start talking about having something and the people don't see it around you, and you say, hey, look, I've got my new car over there. There's my car. And they say, where? And people are looking with their false god. What's their false god? The first false god they look with their eyes. They're looking with their sight. And they're saying, I don't see the new car that you say is there. I said, no, I see it. It's there. I see my new car over there. And they say, no, but I don't see that car. And I said, no, but I see it. You don't see it, but I see it. See, that is faith. Faith, as we are told, is a substance of things not yet seen, but you believe that you have it, and you will indeed have it, because you got to have such a strong belief that is going to outweigh everybody else. You know, when you say that you have a sum of money in your account, or you have a car, or you have great health, people will laugh at you. When they look at you, they'll say, well, I don't see your car, but I don't see that you have, $10 million balance in your account. Surely you're kidding, you're lying. But you got to be steadfast. You got to continue to believe. Stop believing the false gods. The false gods will only make your world to what it shouldn't be. In other words, if you believe the false gods, you will be stuck. You won't get anywhere. But if you stop believing the false gods, the moment you stop believing these 5 false gods, you start to mold your world to your desire. Your desire starts to, first you give conception to your desire. That virgin birth of yours, your virgin birth, your desire. You're giving birth to your desire. So the first thing you've done by denying the false gods is you've given birth to your desire. Now your desire is born. Sure, people can't see it, but you can see it in your mind's eye. I can see my car. Everybody else around me don't. So who's blind? I'm not blind, they are. So I can see my car. And I see it. I see a nice car. I know the color is white. And I know the model as well. But I shall refrain from telling everybody. Because when you tell everybody, you weaken your vibration. But when you keep it to yourself, you strengthen your vibration. What you withhold, you strengthen, you amplify. What you tell everybody, you weaken. So what should you be telling everybody? Give them negative things. Weaken the negative things, but don't weaken the positive. Keep the positive, withhold it. When you withhold it, it powers it. And you see it in your mind's eye. You can close your eye, or you can open your eyes both ways, and you see it in your mind's eye. And I see my car in my mind's eye. And you can see your great health, you can see your sum of money, you open your banking app in your mind's eye, and you see that balance that you desire. And for somebody who wants a car, they see the car they desire in their mind's eye. Yet it's not yet come into the 3D. It's in the 4D. So you can go to your 4D, you can close your eyes, you can go into the 4D with your imagination, and you can feel that you're sitting in that car, or that you have, that balance, that you are feeling that balance, you're feeling the joy, you're feeling the happiness. So you got to get the byproducts. What is the byproduct of your balance? It's not the money. That's not the byproduct. The byproduct of money basically would be what? That your bills are paid, maybe for the whole year. Perhaps your insurances are paid off, which is also another form of bill. Your taxes are paid, another form of bill. And you have assurance of security. You have inside you have a feeling of joy, a feeling of thankfulness. You're grateful to God that these things are already done for you. So your emotions are of perhaps of joy, perhaps of being happy and content, perhaps happy to wake up every morning. You want to live your life because you're so content. that things are working out for you. See, so the byproduct, what you're feeling is the feeling, the emotions you're getting is the feeling, but the byproduct is the money. The byproduct. In other words, when you have that money sitting over there, the feelings, you have to bring those feelings inside you. When you bring those feelings inside you, and you're feeling happy, joy, and all these things, and contentment, and thankful to God, then the money will slowly start to show up. In fact, it will show up because you believe it so much, because it will jump from the 4D to the 3D. But remember, you have to deny your false gods. Your false gods, your eyes, your sight, your hearing, your taste, your touch, feeling, etc. They're telling you otherwise, but you got to deny those false gods. When you deny those false gods, then Jesus can work in your life. See, remember what I told you. Through Jesus you'll get it. So you got to continue to believe in Jesus, and you'll get it. 2 days ago, I had a message from an old student of mine back in London. He's about 20 years ago, he came to me, and I think I've told you his story. And he asked me, he said to me that tomorrow is my test, my driving test in the UK. And I've failed already 6 times, and I can't keep failing it. Tomorrow is the 7th time. Can you pray for me that I pass it tomorrow? And I said, go, you'll pass it tomorrow. And he went and he passed his test. And then other things happened afterwards. So he connected with me 2 days ago. So he was telling me how, his son, which I left as a little boy, I think he was, when I was there, maybe he was like a 10 or 12-year-old boy, but his boy is now, 22 years of age, grown up. And he was telling me, he goes that you told me when you were in the UK, you told me to leave for America. And me and my friend, they're both nurses. And he goes that I made such a mistake not listening to you. I wish I had listened to you. And my friend, I wish he had listened to you, because he knew me as well, he was my student. He said, I wish that we had listened to you. And he goes, it's so hard for us now. And, we're finding it so difficult over here. But if we had listened to you, we would have much better lives. And I said, well, yes, I told you back then that you have to leave this country. Things are not going to be so rosy any longer. And I said, look at the state of the UK now. It's no longer what it was 10 years ago. So he was like, I said, but get your son out. If your son is educating, if he's educated already, get him out of that country. And you as well, leave the country. So I gave him some further advice of where he could go and where he could earn better money and still have a great life ahead. So he came to me after maybe 10 years. And he was telling me, he goes, the things that you told us, all those things we've seen come to pass. And it's incredible that you spoke about those things 20 years ago when nobody even knew about them. And we see those things happening in the Middle East and all over the place. And I said, yeah, I know that. So this is the thing. If you listen to me, you're going to have a great life. If you don't listen, then, you're your own boss. And you can choose not to. And you can choose not to have a great life. But I told you, if you listen to me, from today, start denying the 5 false gods that are stopping you from your desire. They are blocking your desire. Why? Because you're putting your trust in those things. Those things have been taught to us by our parents, by our society. We need to reject those things as false. Because my desire is coming. Just as my new car will come, so will your desires will come as well. But you need to deny the false gods. And just as Jesus said, that when you pray, he said, close the door, come inside the room, close the door, come into your closet, close the door, and now pray. And whatever you shall ask, it shall be given you. You can choose to believe me and deny the false gods, or you can continue to blunder and continue to falter in your life and continue in your dismay. But I would advise you otherwise. So with that, I think this is a hearty message. This is an important message. Listen to this message more than one time and apply it in your life for the betterment of your life. And reject the false gods, and your life will completely change. Set your desire and refuse to give it up. So I leave you with the blessings of Jesus, Master Yeshua, and I leave you with a great Sabbath, a happy weekend with your families. Enjoy yourself until next time. And also, if you're able to, please support the family that I'm asking for about $150 worth of help, that we can assist those people this month some point. If not this month, maybe October, early October is okay as well, but end of this month's fine too. So I thank you for listening to this message, and I wish you great blessings in the name of God. Amen. We amen. Take care of yourselves. Shabbat shalom, shalom, shalom to you.